Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending the NJBIA 2020 Women Business Leaders Forum, ready to launch. So as you can see, this year we have to do this virtually. I'm here today with some excellent panelists, and our breakout session today is called How Coaching and Mentoring Can Benefit You and Your Organization. Really happy to be here and talking about this topic because it's very important, and I think it's always been important. We have wonderful guests, and I'll give you their names right now. First, we have Carrie Choning from Archer Law. We have Valerie Dolan from Nisivakya. I hope I'm saying that right. Dana and Moore from Inspired Lightwork. These ladies have a breadth of knowledge when it comes to business, of course, but also mentoring and coaching. And as we go through this panel, we will hear about not only their experiences with being coaches and or mentors, but also how they come up into the ranks and get into business and be at the level that they are at right now, which makes them so great at this topic. So without further ado, oh, I forgot to mention my name, sorry. My name is Adina Brown. I own a consulting business that is called IHP Global. And I'll just say quickly, my business works around diversity and inclusion, but from a fun and joyous way, where we talk more about community and building community when it comes to including diverse voices in an organization. So I'll let these ladies also introduce themselves a little bit. If you want to know more about their background, of course, their bio is available on the NJBIA website. So without further ado, I want to first introduce Valerie Dolan, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Valerie Dolan. I'm a partner with Nisivakya LLP. We are a full-service accounting firm. I am a partner in the government audit entity section of our firm. So I audit schools, county, municipalities. However, I do run and spearhead most of our mentoring and coaching programs within our firm. So I'm welcoming all of you to this virtual conference.
Thank you, Valerie. And next we will talk to Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carrie Tuning. I am a partner at Archer Law. It's a law firm in Haddonfield, New Jersey. I have been here for almost 20 years. So I have spent about 10 years on the firm's hiring committee, which is a key component is finding new talent and fostering that talent as they come up through the ranks. I'm also serving currently as the president of the Association of the Federal Bar of New Jersey. My practice is focused almost exclusively on litigation. A lot of that is based in federal courts, but I handle case matters from all ranges and clients of all sizes. So I'm looking very much forward to having the conversation this morning with this tremendous group of ladies.
Great. And last but not least, we have Dana Moore. So she's going to tell us about it herself as well.
Thank you, Adina. My name is Dana Moore, and I work with passionate women business owners. I help them lean into their leadership potential to achieve their next level in business and life. I do this through a unique combination of teaching personal energy management practices combined with your more traditional strategic planning, business and organizational management skills. And this helps my clients to gain greater clarity as they pursue their goals, as well as the confidence that they need to reach those goals.
Interesting. It sounds like we have a really good mix of people here today, right? I think we knew that before we started, but yes, just to confirm. So I want to make sure that everyone gets all this great wealth of knowledge. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some questions. And, you know, of course, a very first question that would be asked if we're on a panel for coaching and mentoring is, what's the difference between a coach and a mentor? And I'm posing this question to each and every one of you. So, of course, jump in. I'd like to go in a certain order, but, you know, I'm happy to, you know, hear Carrie first, and then we can go to Dana, if you feel excited, and then Valerie. So
Sounds good. We had obviously had some preliminary discussions about coaching and mentoring before we got on the panel today. And one of the things that sort of struck me about the conversation we had there is that there's really a lot of difference between coaching and mentoring, but there's also a lot of overlap between the two of them. So coaches, in my experience, are a lot more formal, at least when it comes to being a lawyer and marketing related to lawyering. The coaching is a lot more formal, right? It's very sort of driven by looking for you to reach certain benchmarks, to write articles, to get your name out there, to publicize your existence and your experience as an attorney. And it's driven to help you become a better lawyer with some very specific tasks in mind. Whereas in my experience, mentoring is a lot more organic. It's about finding somebody and helping them sort of achieve what it is that they want to do, and letting them know that there's support, and letting them know that there's some experience that can help them learn from your experiences. And so you tend to end up, at least as it's worked for me, the mentors that I have worked with and the mentees that I have worked with have all been people that we sort of came to pretty organically. And so it's about a personal relationship and fostering that sort of feeling of somebody's thinking about you and wants to help you. And it's not necessarily driven by some specific metric so much as it's a little bit of imprinting, right? Let me show you by my own example how you can achieve certain things, or in the converse, how not to do certain things to make sure that you learn from past bad experiences as well.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. And Dana, share a bit about your differences that you find with coaching and mentoring. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I would totally echo what Carrie has said. I find that coaching has a more direct endpoint, right? You may be looking for a more specific result when you seek out a coach and you're doing work with a coach. Normally, coaches will have a program to take you through step by step, whereas a mentor, like Carrie said, is more organic. You're definitely building relationships, but you're also building networks. Right, you are kind of peering into the field that you might have an interest in, and you have someone there to kind of toe that road with you, maybe hold your hand a little bit, ask those questions, and to have those deep conversations about the nuance of that area. Whereas a coach is definitely going to be more direct. You can have that open conversation, absolutely ask all of the questions that you need. But when you work with a coach, you're most likely making an investment into yourself or your business. So you're going to be more focused on achieving a goal.
Yeah, true. And then Valerie, please.
So I will sort of echo the way what the other ladies have said, but when I looked at it after our discussions, I went back and looked at it as, how do I see the two as different? Well, one of the things I really do look at when I look at a coach, I look at it as more of a performance. It's a performance-driven type of approach. It's usually professional in nature. You're working towards a goal. I feel like coaching becomes way more structured for a lot of people because it's oriented towards a goal. You're structuring on how to obtain something, how to obtain either the next level, how to obtain growth that you're looking for. When I look at a mentor, I see as a mentor is really that whole package. You're not only looking at somebody's performance, but you're taking in that whole aspect of their development. You're taking in a lot of that personal side of that person. You're taking in, it's much more a long-term fluid process where we really do sit down and look at it. It builds character. It helps impart a lot of information, successes, and things that you might have experienced, where I think a lot of people do grow from that mentoring side because they feel that it's vested for themselves. And, they share a lot more. When you're coaching someone, it becomes, like I said, it's driven for performance. They're trying to obtain something, but people are much more willing to give a lot more of themselves when they feel that they're being mentored and looking towards their whole picture and their whole growth, personal and professional.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You know, the next question I definitely can relate to more, but I really want to go to Dana on this one because I know Dana is a coach, you know, in some respects, that's what she does. And I love the approach, actually. It's very unique. And so I'm going to pose this question, but I definitely, you know, Dana, great, take the lead on this one because this is your space. So, you know, who's had a coach or mentor or mentor, I should say, and, you know, what was your experience? You know, I want to know first, and I believe, you know, we talked obviously before this, but, you know, I want to know what that experience was like for you, um, whichever you had, a mentor or coach, and, you know, how you felt about that.
Oh, I'd love to share, Adina. I've worked with both coaches and mentors, and I've had some great experiences, and I've had experiences that taught me a lot about myself, about my needs, and what other people just kind of have to bring to the table and offer. I will say that my experience with coaching probably led me to the work that I do now because I recognized gaps in what I needed as a coachee or a mentee. And I would say that coaching definitely gives you a look inside of another person's process and programming. I find that it's actually a wonderful way to grow in partnership because you're receiving so much from that person, right? Many times you will receive coaching in an area that you want to pursue. So when you get those worksheets to fill out or the questionnaires and the homework, it is shaping your work to produce, but it will also give you some shaping to your own programs, to the ability to decide that I like this thing or I really don't like that thing, and to be able to say, this is working for me and this is not. So in the coaching experience, I've had great coaches, which is why I'm here today. So I want to thank all of those amazing coaches and people that support me because we don't get here alone. And I've also had some what a coach of mine likes to call toxic coaching, where someone might be just spraying at you, water hosing at you, giving you their ideals that don't actually match up with your own core values or what you want to bring to the world. And it becomes very important in that process to identify and what you'd like to do, what you'd like to learn, and where you need to speak up a bit more.
Yeah, I like that. And I really support that whole, it really, you know, the coaching space is, it's new to so many people, but it is so vital in developing us who we are. And like you said, it actually inspired you to become a coach yourself. That's how great it is. And I have to say, I worked with a coach before and it was a really great experience. And it really shaped some of the directions I've gone in my life since. So, and let's hear from Valerie, your experience and whether you've had a coach, a mentor, or both.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I actually have never actually worked directly with a coach, but I have worked with mentors over my course of my career, but I've also been a mentor. Most of my mentors helped me grow and helped me get to where I wanted. So I believe that there was probably an element of coaching within that mentoring, although it wasn't probably directly saying as it was a coach. But when I look at a mentoring, I always find that the success becomes in the mentor because the mentor is the whole picture. I look at it's a holistic approach to someone. You really do get to know a lot of people. You get to know a lot about a person. You get to know about different aspects of it because sometimes things when you're working with a mentee, a lot of times is you have to understand what drives them. So they might come to you and want to know how do I get to the next level? How do I get to where I want to be? But at the same time, you have to really understand a lot about their background and a lot about what their challenges are so that you can help them devise a plan to what makes the most sense for them. You know, I never look at anybody's success as a one-way street. There are bumps and bounces and twists and turns for most people in their growth. And as they're moving, you have to be, that's where that fluidity comes in. And when I do look at the people that I do mentor, which I mentor a large number of people in our firm, is we try to do two types of mentoring sessions. Because really, when you look at a mentoring, sometimes it could be a day, like somebody who's available in an open door policy and helping them navigate an existing problem. But every once in a while, you really do need a deep dive. So, you know, you need to really sit down with them and evaluate their goals and spend the time with those people, with the people that are either mentoring and or your own mentors. Sometimes you just have to kind of come back and say, hey, am I on this? This is where I thought I wanted to be, and I'm sort of headed that way. And maybe I want to rethink my goals, or maybe I want to rethink my approach. And you have to be able to have that fluidity when it comes to mentoring and or mentee, being a mentee.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carrie, obviously this question is posed to you too. And what I like about this is because we're getting three different, well, sometimes four, very different experiences on all these things, which I think is helpful. So yeah, Carrie, you know, what's been your experience with coaching versus mentoring, or if you've had both?
So I have actually had both. We'll start with mentoring because I think that's where the bulk of my experience has been. And that's sort of from both sides of the coin. I would seek out people who have the requisite experience or the life experience, whether it's life experience or work experience, that would help to sort of mentor me and people to whom I could go with questions or concerns or things that I wanted to discuss. And Valerie made a point that sort of reminded me of something, which is that it's really important, even once you sort of ascend, if you will, into the role of being more of a mentor and less of a mentee, it's important to remember that you don't know everything and that there's still value in finding people who do have more experience and that can help talk you through a problem, even if it's not sort of a more formal mentorship. There's always somebody that you can go to seek out as a mentor on a particular issue or a particular part of your career. So I think it's important to always remember that there's, you know, we don't know everything, and there's always room for additional growth on that front. So my experience with mentors has been tremendous. My experience with coaches, not so much. There have been coaches that I've had access to over the years, and more in terms of things like marketing and professional development, not so much actual practice of law. But not a great fit. And this sort of segues, I think, into our next question. But you know, you have to sort of know what's going to work from a coaching perspective. And if you're going to make that investment and they're going to make the reciprocal investment in you, you really have to feel comfortable with it and really know that it's what you want. So my coaching experience has not been tremendous, but thankfully I've had mentors who have sort of filled in those gaps.
Good, excellent. You know, you did segue into the next question, actually. So, yeah, the next question is, you know, what do we do in these challenging moments where we have to really step out and be more courageous and talk to either a mentor or a mentee when we find it's not the right fit? So, you know, I'd love to share an experience personally for myself. I'll be brief, but you know, for me, I think it's really important for mentors to understand that mentoring someone does not mean that you're creating a carbon copy of yourself. So, and I don't think people always understand that. So, you know, that's a really important discussion to have when we are in that relationship with someone, and it might not be going so great and on either direction, right? As the mentor or the mentee. So, you know, I'm sure, you know, some of us have had that experience, and, you know, just share. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, that sounds a little difficult, but, you know, maybe we'll start with Valerie again, or did Valerie just talk? Go ahead, Valerie, keep it going.
No problem. Yeah, I look at that when the relationship's not right. I look at mentoring, coaching, all of those things. It's chemistry. Sometimes there's a lot of chemistry, and whether not only do you work together well, but do you have the same values? Do you have similar aspirations, but not only, I mean, it's great to have somebody who thinks differently than you. I think those are great people who give you a lot of information. But if they're trying to change you, that's when the relationship doesn't always work, because instead of accepting your side of an opinion, they're trying to change you to their side of the opinion. And I look at when you in those situations, one of the best things that come out of these relationships is the element of honesty. Sometimes you just have to be honest with both yourself and with the other person that it's not working, and not be afraid to be honest, and also not be afraid to say, you know what, I need something different. And then you try, you want to be able to do it in a way where you're not parting difficultly and you're leaving sour grapes or something with somebody, and you want to part, because a lot of times they are people that are still within your own organization. So a lot of times they are people that you have to work with or see, and you don't want to part in a way where you burn a bridge. You just want to say, you have to address that. Are we both getting something out of it? Because sometimes, yes, the one person your mentee might be getting a lot out of it, but you as the mentor are not, or vice versa. The mentor is getting a lot of information out of it and the mentee's not. So I think part of that communication is having that original dialogue of saying, is this working? Are we reaching goals? Because part of it isn't just setting goals for someone as their mentor. You're setting goals for the relationship also. So I think it's very difficult sometimes. And I find that for me, any mentor or type of coaching that I've received where I was sort of assigned a person, sometimes that sounds great on paper, but doesn't always work in logistics, because it's just different. Where other places I have a tendency to take my successes from people I either respect or people I'd like to navigate, or even I've had mentors who I just want to understand because I see them succeeding in areas where I'm not, and I want to get something from them. How did you get to where you are? That's not my strength. Can you help me here? And then other times you're just like, oh, I need to walk away from this because I shouldn't dread the meeting. If you're dreading the meeting, that's probably your first sign that you want to do something different with somebody differently. So, thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that is true. We don't want to dread meeting with our mentor. Oh no, that doesn't sound like fun.
No, it doesn't sound like fun at all.
Something that Valerie said just really excited me about recognizing that it's not the right fit. And I always tell everyone, there are hundreds and thousands of people out there that would be happy to coach you and mentor you and see you succeed. I think those of us in that field delight at the idea of helping to lift someone else. And not everyone is going to be your cup of tea. I work in a very feminine, grounded kind of way. We lift our strengths as women in business, as mothers in business, just to use what we've got, right? But that's not everyone's cup of tea. And it's okay that I am not your person or this other person was not, because they are out there. And when you are clear on your goals and what you desire, it comes a little more naturally. You'll definitely find it. I find that setting expectations with clients and being clear about them really helps to balance and I identify what that relationship is going to look like. So for me personally, I know that someone is ready to work with me when they recognize that they need to make a change in the way that they're operating to experience that success in their business. Many times it's making a change in their own energy, the way that they manage themselves, that makes that difference in the way that they are managing their business. So when a client can clearly say, hey, I need something different. I'm not sure what's working. I know there's a better way, but I'm not sure what that is. I know we can dig a little deeper. You look for people that are coachable. I happen to be very intuitive. I love people. People are my business. So I delight in getting to know them and picking up on that body language, what they're talking about, and going deep. So that language is becomes very important in identifying what kind of relationship we might have, or if you're ready for that kind of commitment.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dina. I that resonates with me a lot, actually. What you're saying is just knowing yourself too. And I think I'll let Carrie talk about her, experience with, having to deal with being a mentor or mentee and how that went if it wasn't a good fit. Yeah.
Yeah, you actually touched right on it, Adina. It's a lot about knowing yourself and what you need and what you can deliver. You have to be honest. You have to be a little self-aware, and that's not always easy to do. You have to take a step back and think about, is the way that I am I trying to force this relationship? Is the way that I'm conducting myself in this relationship helpful or beneficial to both of us? Because if it's not, then it just drains you, and it doesn't really, you're working at cross purposes. Dana said, not everybody's cup of tea. I consider myself to be a pretty strong cup of tea. So I recognize that fully well, that there are some people who don't do as well with someone who is very direct and very honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell it to you like it is. And in my business, and to some extent, that's sort of necessary. But there are, litigators, by virtue of what they do, need to have a little bit of a thick skin. You have to have be able to do it. And so I find that I have to think about how direct I am with people sometimes, because it doesn't always suit them. But I also don't want to do injustice to myself either. I'm not going to change my personality in the way I am, but I do try to be conscious of how that impacts on other people, and making sure that they understand that if, even if it's not an explicit conversation, it's sort of smoothing them in or easing them into a different relationship or pointing them in another direction for somebody who might be a better fit for them.
Interesting. Sounds like you and I have similar personalities, Carrie. I'm very direct
I knew I liked you.
No, I'm very direct too. I think I'm nice, but I definitely know that I'm direct. Sometimes I guess it depends on who you are. But yeah.
I do it with a smile.
Yeah, no.
Direct with a smile.
Communication styles are so interesting because if you're an indirect communicator and you're with a mentor that's very direct, how does that work? The mentee can be in a corner crying somewhere, and really the mentor is just trying to direct them in a very straightforward way and say, hey, look, this is the path, or, this is what I did, or, maybe need to work on that. But maybe that mentee would be best fit with someone who is less direct in their style of communicating. So yeah, that's an interesting point. And also to that point, I think about how it must be if you're a younger person and you're looking for someone to be your mentor and you don't quite know yourself and you're just like, look, somebody help me, please. And you're just kind of, lob onto the first person who's available. And, I think over time you realize, oh, I'm this way and I kind of don't want to go in that direction. So I think that is important. One thing I think is really cool nowadays, I hope that doesn't make me sound older, but nowadays, I feel like a lot of young women are really powerful and kind of know themselves quicker, I think, than maybe our, other generations. I hate to say that, sorry. But I'm in a generation that, I'm kind of in between. But, even for myself, I'm so impressed when I see women now who are like, yeah, I know. And they're like 25 or 22. It's amazing because, it's definitely a change. So, that's a really great point, though, knowing ourselves and also making sure we're a good fit. So, that leads us to our next question. How do we qualify mentees? I'll let anyone step in. Sometimes I'm just leading so that way we don't all jump in at the same time. But how do we qualify someone to be a mentee, someone that we're going to actually choose to work with? Anybody have a thought on that one?
I'd like to step in on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one of the things that I think sort of led me to being involved in our mentoring type program in my firm is because I would sit in meetings and I would realize what we would do is we would historically, most organizations, you look at your organization, your employees, and you look at who are my superstars, and you always identify. Everybody's really good at identifying a superstar, and everybody's really good at identifying those low performers. And so when I started this, I started looking at, well, who's in the middle? And then, okay, so now I went in and I started looking at that middle group in my firm and said, hey, what do I need to get this group to be superstars? And that's when and that was the evaluation I sort of took. And so the superstars already were looking for people to mentor them. The low performers were already not interested. That middle group was looking for someone to make an investment. And so what I did is I sort of evaluated that whole group in my middle, and then I tried to match up some personalities. I tried to match up, and I spoke with a lot of them and said, hey, is this something you're interested in? Is this something that you would be looking for? You know, and you just start little bits of pieces of working. And I found that people, when you started to approach them, suddenly they were, oh, someone's taking an interest. And then suddenly I had all these people looking for mentors, and suddenly I had people who were looking to improve themselves. And so suddenly I became in charge. And so it was an interesting process, the way those evolved. But I think that middle group in my office really loved that someone was taking an interest, because they were sort of in that middle. So when I looked at those mentees, the ones I was looking to mentor were those that were, you know, just looking, not sure, dipping their toe in the waters. They weren't sure how to get to where they wanted to go. And we've seen so many successes come out of that because they just wanted the time, but weren't the vocal one, or they were the quieter person in the corner who just wasn't quite ready to approach somebody. So I sort of looked at it that way. But I look at any mentee as anyone who's looking for something. They want some growth. They want to change. They want to make a career decision, you know, and some people just need softening. Some people need expertise. You know, you have to, then you get into that process and you go kind of forward from there. You know?
Yeah, that is very true. Interesting. I like that. I like that take on it, that picking from the middle range. I think you're right. You know, the top performers are always seeking out mentors. They've got a strategic plan about what they're doing with their day, their month, and their year, right? So they know the quarter before it begins. And so I think that's really valuable to get in with those people who are kind of like on the middle and they're not sure, and to help pull them up. That's a really great point. I'll consider that in the future. So please, anyone else jump in, please, for our next question about how do you select a mentee, and you know, how do you vet them out?
I guess my process has always been very organic. It's just somebody that I have either identified with in some fashion because we have a similar personality, or we have a similar work style, or similar home circumstances. Somebody who, you know, a younger or less experienced, I should say, female attorney who has a family at home that she's also trying to sort of juggle 5 different things at the same time, and trying to find people that I relate to. And it's a pretty organic process in my mind, because I've been formally assigned as a mentor for people, and you kind of check in and you do what you're supposed to do, and you have a lunch and you see where they're going and what they want, and you keep touch. But then there are people who just gravitate toward you for advice, because for a lot of the same reasons, because they see you as having that same kind of background, or they see you as being in a position that they would like to be in, and how did you get there? And sometimes for me, it's rarely that formal and that direct. It's a lot more organic, and it's just more of a sort of modeling than it is a let's talk about how I got to where I am, so much as it's we just talk about life and how things happen, and those conversations just develop. I mean, I can talk the hinges off of a door, so it doesn't really make it doesn't take much to get me to open up. So that I've found that those relationships, the best mentoring relationships that I've had, have all been very organic. We're just sort of gravitate toward one another.
So I guess I would say I agree with Valerie and Kerry. It's definitely a process of unfolding. For me in my work, again, I love to get to know people. And because I work with women that are already in business, we get to talk about their pain points. We get to hear like what's really pulling at you, what's really draining you. Is it the workload in your business? Is it a miscommunication with your staff? Are you showing up as the leader that you desire to be in business and or in your personal life? And from that come the goals, right? So it's a beautiful process, and I like to empower people. So in those conversations, whether we're working together or not, I am feeding you happily, like mothers do. I'm happily feeding, I'm happily lifting, and just really planting those seeds, because no matter who you decide to work with or what course of action you decide to take, whether you find a mentor or you are taking your route a little more seriously, maybe you have a time frame in which you need to get something done. I look at what resources are available for that person, right? What is your time like? Where can you make a shift or a change and a commitment? How long have you been doing this? Are you seeing your own patterns in the places that you're getting stuck? And so from those conversations, we really find out what might work best. And if it's not me, I know tons of amazing ladies like Valerie and Carrie and Adina that I'm happy to make a referral to, or to suggest that they seek out another conversation, or maybe there's other work that they need to do before they get to that point. So I would say that's definitely how I qualify a mentee or a coachee. I do a lot of mentorship with youth and young adults that are just out of college, to gain those basic skills that you need when you're entering the workforce. And again, like Valerie and Carrie said, it is definitely about style, but we put ourselves in a position of leadership where we are teaching them and are modeling for them. So it's important to see the response there, that ebb and flow, to kind of set the stage of what does respect look like in a relationship. How should we be communicating? What's your best communication style? Is there anything that's missing for you? Right? Those kinds of check-ins and getting to hear that before you start that relationship.
Yeah, that's great. No, I appreciate all of our comments here and all of the insight we have about mentoring and coaching. Before we wrap up, we have a couple of minutes, literally a couple of minutes. I just want to ask each and every one of you, really, what has been your, how can I put this? What's been the most important leadership lesson that you've learned over time? Because, obviously we know that we've had, a lot of experiences throughout our lifetime. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in business where you are right now, but what's been the most important leadership lesson that you have learned? So just jump in.
I'll start. So the most important leadership lesson that I think I've learned is sort of twofold. One is you have to be willing to get your hands dirty. You have to be willing to be in the trenches. People need to understand that you are leading by example, and that you're willing to do what needs to be done to get the job accomplished. And I think there's a lot of respect that comes from that. And so people will look to you. Leaders will take charge, but they're also willing to do the work that has to be done to get it accomplished. And I think the sort of flip side, or the complement to that, is to be able to identify people who have those same types of qualities, and to make sure that you're fostering those so that you have some succession planning. You have people who are coming up the ranks who are going to be in the same position to do the same thing, to lead by example and to get their hands dirty and get the job done.
Excellent.
I could jump on. I guess my biggest one, I would say, is that always be willing to groom the people below you. You are only as successful as those people below you. Never fear that you're going to teach somebody something, delegate the work to somebody, train somebody to you're not taking over, somebody's not taking over your job. What that does is that elevates you also. By elevating others, you elevate yourself. by being able to do something different in your own career because you have people right below you in succession to take over the tasks that you're doing. Most people enjoy when you give them that workload and you take that trust in them. Yes, I agree with Carrie completely. Push up your sleeves, get in the trenches with them. Nobody appreciates that more, but when you help elevate someone, you help build their confidence. You help build the future. And so that's my biggest takeaway from my leadership.
I'm so inspired, Valerie. I love it. I definitely feel the same way. I found that people often think of leaders as the person that's the loudest or up in the front, kind of holding that torch, and many times that's true. But leaders make the most impact when they can build relationships and gain influence. And it's important for us to identify who those people are. Who are people listening to? Because leaders inspire others. And it doesn't look the same as your method or your process, because an effective leader is going to empower that other person to create something new and bring it to fruition. We are in this continuum, especially right now as we are delivering this conference virtually. We've all had to adjust and adapt, and leaders learn to give that work back to the people to do more with. Leaders know how to keep a balance, a healthy balance for themselves in their work, and allow others to flourish as well.
So well said. Yeah, so well said, ladies. Oh, I really appreciate that this time. I especially want to reiterate what we're talking about in this particular moment about how mentors and coaches really do set the tone for the next wave of leaders that are coming up. So that's why I think this panel is so important, because when we mentor someone the right way, and like Valerie and Carrie and also Dana mentioned, when we give them the tools to be successful, not intimidated and thinking they're going to take away from us, but just pushing them up and giving them the pieces and the resources they need to be a better person, we really kind of improve the world if you think about it. So this has been a great discussion, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for those who attended our NJBIA Women's Business Leaders Forum this year virtually. Hopefully one day we can do it in person again, right? And have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye, ladies.